Hi everyone. So it's Niran Perera from Marshall Immigration Services. So I just want to give you an update about the today's IRCC announcement with regard to bringing up changes with regard to the eligibility of spouse open work permits. So first of all, I apologize. We have been getting many inquiries, many calls, messages, and emails. And my office just informed me that we received 67 inquiries. Personally, I cannot attend all these, right? So that's why I thought of we will do a video so where we will interpret all the terms of today's announcement, so you will have a better idea. So without wasting any time, let me get into the IRCC, the announcement. So here, if you can see, changes to open work permits for family members of temporary residents. So it's pretty clear that the IRCC want to reduce temporary foreign workers. So in this particular announcement, they have targeted family members of temporary residents in general, because they're talking about students as well. So if we read this message, right, first of all, they make it clear that the government of Canada is continuing to strengthen the integrity and the quality of our temporary resident programs while supporting the country's economic goals and labor market needs. So this was something we were expecting it, because remember last year, September, they said that they're going to bring the changes to spouse open work permit eligibility. So we were expecting it to come towards the back end of the last year, but it didn't happen. So here we are. They have announced like the larger number of changes with regard to the eligibility of spouse open work permits and work permits for family members. So here it's mentioned as a part of the broader measure announced in September. So as I said, they gave us a hint in September. So if we check this, you can see this particular bullet point. They have mentioned limiting the work permit eligibility later this year to spouses of foreign workers in management, professional occupations, or in sectors with labor shortages under Canada's work permit programs. So they gave us this hint last year, September. So we were everybody was kind of trying to think what changes they're going to make, whether they're going to restrict to tier 0, 1, 2, 3, or now as tier 0, 1, or what are the changes that they are going to implement from 2025 onwards. So now they have made it clear they are trying to reduce the temporary foreign workers based on the occupation. So here the most important part, effective January 21st, 2025, only spouses of certain international students and foreign workers will be able to apply for a family open work permit. So that means we have time until January 21st, 2025. So if you are in tier 2, 3, or still you have a chance to apply. And if you are in tier 4, 5, because of the temporary public policy is still in play, so you can still apply under this. But after 21st of January, only the family members' work permits will be limited to the international students if they are doing master's program, which are 16 months or longer, or if they are doing doctoral programs or selected professional eligible programs, right? So then if you're doing postgraduate diplomas, if you're doing postgraduate certificates, or if you're doing diplomas, as we know, you cannot apply for spouse open work permit. Then the most important change as far as I'm concerned is the next one, which is family open work permits will also be limited to spouses of foreign workers who are employed in tier 0 or 1 occupations. So if you are in tier 0 or 1, this announcement will not have any impact on your spouse open work permits, right? So we will go through how to find these tiers and how to find the eligible occupations and so on. So we'll move to the next bullet point. Here they say that select tier 2 or 3 occupations in sectors with low labor shortages or linked to government priorities. So that means they are trying to give certain NOCs which fall under tier 2 or 3 the eligibility ground to apply for spouse open work permit. So they have mentioned this include occupations in natural and applied sciences, construction, healthcare, natural resources, education, sports and military sectors. So out of the health and construction, which was like very widely contemplated because we knew that they are going to include that, but there are a few surprises as well. They have included the sports and military sectors as well. And then they have mentioned very importantly that the full list will be available on January 21st, 2025. So they have not given us the full list. The full disclosure is not available. So we have to wait until next week to find out the full list of occupations which fall under tier 2 or 3. So one of the inquiries that we got today was like do we have to wait for the list for tier 01? No, we don't, because they have mentioned clearly here tier 01 occupations O. So that means that this list will only have tier 2 and 3. Right. Then another important change here they mention, in addition, the foreign worker must also have at least 16 months remaining on their work permit at the time when their spouse applies for open work permit. So remember, this was like 6 months. Like earlier, the requirement was 6 months. Now it's 16 months. So if you have only done a 1-year program where you will be eligible for 1-year postgraduate work permit, if you're planning to bring your spouse, unfortunately, you will not be able to do that because you will not have 16 months in your postgraduate work permit. So that will be a problem. You cannot apply for your spouse. That doesn't mean that you cannot apply. You as a student, you have the right to get the postgraduate work permit. It's just that your spouse will not be able to apply. Then another important line that has caused many issues, especially for parents, right? So they hear a lot of interpretations given by a lot of experts, but here it clearly says dependent children of foreign workers will no longer eligible. So that doesn't mean that the dependent children who are already inside Canada on the study permit or visitor permits, they have to go back. No, that's not the case. Because if you see the notice here, changes to open work permits. So we are talking about work permits. They have not mentioned anything with regard to study or visitor permits for in-Canada applicants, right? So they have not given any indication, so they can give like more information later on. But as of now, they have not mentioned about the study or the visitor records, right? Then they have given few exemptions as well. So open work permits that were approved under the previous measures and have not expired will remain valid. So that's very simple. If you have a valid open work permit as a spouse of a postgraduate work permit holder or any other means under LMIA work permit, still your work permits are valid. They are not going to touch that, right? So if it is not expired, you have absolutely nothing to worry. Just continue working. Then, in situations where a student may need more time to complete their program or where family members receive a short work permit than principal applicants, in Canada, family members can apply to renew their work permits as long as, and they have given 2 exceptions. So, they're talking about 2 scenarios here. First one, the scenario number 1, where it says, right, so where student may need more time to complete their program. For an instance, if you had to defer the program and you need more time to complete your program, maybe you have to go for a co-op program. If you need more time, still your family members can apply based on your extension, right? And if you are given like where the family members receive a short work permit than the principal applicant, where in scenario, let's say the student is entitled for 3 years postgraduate work permit, and the family member, the spouse only got 2 years because his or her passport was expiring, still you can do the extension even after January 21st. You do need not to worry because it is covered under the exemption. Then they have put 2 clauses stating that they are applying under the same criteria as the current work permit, and the requested duration of the renewal matches that of the existing study or work permit of the principal applicant. So we are talking about if you're looking for an extension, that is covered. But if, let's say, somebody is applying for postgraduate work permit after, let's say, January 21st, let's say April, then these rules will apply to you. It's not taken as an extension because it will be a new application. But if you already have an application, if you already have a permit and you're looking for extension for that application, then this rule will not apply. Right. Then the spouse of workers covered by free trade agreements and those transitioning into permanent residents will not be impacted by these changes. So again, that's a very important discussion point, right? The people asked okay, what is the meaning of this permanent resident transition? That means if you have already applied, you have created express entry profile, you receive an invitation, or whatever the permanent resident program, you received an invitation and you have submitted your application to IRCC and you have received the R10 check, like the completeness check approval, then statutorily you can apply for bridging open work permits. So in that case, these changes will not apply. So your spouse need not to have a tier 01 job for you to get a work permit in case of bridging open work permit. But very important, the mere fact of creating an express entry profile will not lead you to this position. It will not be taken as a transition into permanent residence because you have not received an invitation or you have not received nomination. So you need to pass the completeness check to go for a bridging open work permit. Right. So the family members who will no longer qualify for family open work permit can apply for any type of work permit. They are eligible under Canada's work permit program. So based on the LMIA and the other agreements, you will be able to apply. But if you're looking as your spouse as the qualifying ground, then these limitations will apply. Now the $1 million question that they asked, right? How to find the tier 01 job? So yes, this is a surprising and shocking announcement from IRCC, but you have to calm down and you have to think about a way forward. This is not the end of the world. I'll show you how. So let's go to this. Let's find out these tier 01 jobs, right? So then if you come here, you see tier 0 jobs are management occupations, right? Whereas the tier 1 jobs, occupations that usually require university degrees. Right. So then if you come down here, you will be able to see all the jobs with tier 0. So see, if you're a financial manager, human resource manager, engineering manager, telecommunication manager, you still will be able to get an open work permit for your spouse. So if you go down the list, there are like it's been covered like under all the occupational categories, right? So we have health and we have public administration, even the managers in social community. So you can go through this list and see whether you can find any tier 0 or 1 job. So if you are in the first or second semester as a student, then you have to plan ahead. You have to think, okay, how am I going to secure a tier 01 job or the tier 2-3 exempted list, right? So if you have to target, so which will be available from 21st January itself. So then you have to plan now onwards. If you are like graduating like probably in next couple of months, you have to be creative and you have to find something. For instance, now restaurant manager, if you become a restaurant manager, you will be tier 0. There are like the few jobs which you might not think which is tier 0. So let's go through the list. Right. Construction managers, managers in agriculture, managers in transportation, right? So then the manufacturing managers. So the managers fall into tier 0 irrespective like the most of the fields, right? So so if you're able to secure a job, then you might be able to get a spouse open work permit for your spouse. So then tier 1 jobs, you can see from here onwards, tier 1 jobs, accountants, financial advisors, human resource professionals, right? So these are not like managerial capacity. You might be able to secure a job. So if you see the architects, right? So the public and environmental health and safety professionals, right? So then the land surveyors, data scientists, cybersecurity specialists, business system specialists, right? So most of the tech bro occupations are tier 1, right? So then software engineers, civil engineers, web designers, chemical engineers, then mining engineers, then the petroleum engineers. So here pharmacists, dentists, they will go down the list, right? Lawyers, that is covered, university professors or lecturers, right? So many students, especially who get into dean's list, or like who gets first class, they might get an opportunity to teach in the particular university. So if that is the case, then you are covered under tier 1. Right. So then even the post-secondary teaching and research assistants, right? So many colleges, especially like the colleges like Humber College, who are into research and so on, they give these opportunities to the research assistants, right? So then the secondary school teachers, social workers, educational counselors, right? So then the librarians, rent program officers unique to government. So they are talking about government jobs. So then even the journalists, technical writers, editors, right? So even the musicians and singers are also covered. So now you have to pick one from this tier 01 if you're planning ahead, and secure a job there. I know it's easier said than done, but that is what it is. You have to play with the system. So you have to plan and somehow secure a job in 01, or you have to look into the other exemptions that they have given. So if you go back to our the announcement here, they have mentioned a few exemptions under tier 2 or 3, right? So this one, right? The natural and applied sciences, construction, healthcare, natural resources, education, sports and military sectors. And they have promised that they will publish the list on 21st. But if you don't want to wait until 21st and you need to find these, the categories, the easiest way to find out is just go to Google, right? So just type IRCC broad occupational categories, right? So then once you go there, you'll be able to see the categories here. So what they have mentioned here is natural and applied sciences, right? Health occupations, some health occupations, and the occupations in education, right? So the natural resources. So to find out this particular the occupational category, what you have to do is you just go to Google and just type find my NOC, right? So then you'll be directed to the screen. So let's take an example. Today, one person asked me whether the early childhood educators are in the list. It's going to be, I mean, as you know, the list is not published yet, but we can reasonably guess based on the categories announced. So if you type early childhood educators, just copy this, go to Google, right? So just copy and paste, right? So we'll paste it here. Then you will be able to go to the respective IRCC page with the NOC, right? Then if you see the occupational category here, it's occupation in education. So this was something that was in the list, but they have not mentioned about the law and social and community and government services. But if it is in occupations in education, this might be in the exempted list. So if you want to find, you can the occupational category, whether it is covered under any of the exemptions, just take paste the NOC to the Google search and then see the occupational category whether it's there, right? Or else if you go on stay until January 21st, you will have the full list, because the IRCC announced that they will publish the full list. Right. So I don't want to take much of your time. So I hope I clarified a lot of the announcements that they have made and the changes that they are going to implement from the 21st January itself. So just to summarize, does this mean that my application need to be approved by 21st January? No, it's that you have to apply. And then does this apply to students, like the dependent children? Yes, only if the work permits, if they're looking at work permits. So people think, okay, how can they get a work permit? Because we might have the parents in their 40s, like 50s, and then their children might be above 18, and still they may qualify under dependent children. So earlier they were allowed to apply for work permits instead of study permits. So now that is taken away. But that does not mean that your infant child who's like 3-4 years will have to go back. That's not the case. They have not implemented that. So then with regard to the tier 01 jobs, it's totally excluded from this announcement. So if you don't need to wait till the list. Tier 2 or 3, only you have to wait for the list. So if you are able to find jobs in tier 01 or tier 2, 3 exempted list, you will be fine, right? So we will wait for IRCC to provide more clarifications next week. So once we have the list, we'll meet soon. So until that point, don't panic. Just because the information is what is needed to navigate this difficult scenario. So as soon as we get the information from IRCC, I'll again meet you. So until that time, thank you very much for your time. Again, don't panic. Just calm down. We will somehow figure a way to get around this, in the sense, because we have to, because like whether it's fair or not, this is a rule now. So we have to comply with it, whether we like it or not. Some people got in touch with few clients who have previously consulted me for that. They asked like, is it fair? I said, I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't look like fair because like this was not communicated previously, because like some people who graduated less than 2 weeks ago, so it's very difficult for them to find a job and apply for postgraduate work permits and their family members. But it is what it is, and from the IRCC or the government's perspective, they are under huge pressure to reduce the temporary foreign workers. So which is in turn, because like, as you know, finding jobs is getting difficult by the day. So that's why they are trying to reduce the temporary foreign workers. So once again, thank you very much for joining in. So as soon as we get more information from IRCC, we'll meet you. So until that point, good night.